Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I'm Miss Lisa, and this is my YouTube channel where we talk about anything I want to that has to do with science and math. And today we're talking about biology, and in particular the nervous system and chemical control in your body, so also glands and things like that. So first of all, most animals have a way of transferring information. So that's the nervous system. It's a way for the body to send information to the brain and the brain to respond to it, and also for the brain to respond to its environment and to know, what is best for the organism. From these inputs, from this information, then decisions can be made, sometimes voluntarily and sometimes involuntarily. We're going to learn in this chapter. First of all, nervous system in animals. Some animals have very complex nervous systems like ours, and some have very simple nervous systems. And the ones that we want to talk about are the Planaria and the Hydra. The Hydra is that thing, it looks like a little tube with all these tentacles coming out the top. And it is a very simple little animal. They're very fun to watch. You should definitely go online and see a video, because how they walk is they take their little tentacle-y ends and put it down, and then they flip. They do like forward flips or back flips, however. I don't know which way the Planarium is going, to flip wherever they want to go. And they bud. They're so interesting. But they just have some nerve cells. They're very, very primitive in their design. And they don't respond real quickly to stimulus as a result. The one that is talked about next is Planarium. Planarium is a little flatworm. They're interesting, but when I taught biology in public school, I'm not teaching biology now, I'm teaching chemistry and physics, but physical science physics. But when I taught public school, I ordered Planaria so that we could do a lab with it, and they just all died. They were such a disappointment. But if you can get a good batch, they're very interesting to do labs with, because for one thing, you can cut them in half, like if it was you, it'd be across your belly button going horizontally, and they will grow new parts. You can cut them this way and they'll grow 2 new heads. Very cool. Once again, look online, because they're hard to make them do that. But one of the things they can do is you can shine light on them, and they have little ice spots, and they can see light and dark, and they'll respond to light. Ours didn't work because they just all died, but I have seen videos of it. And actually, when I was in high school, we got some Planarias to work. We got them to grow new tails. We got them to grow new heads. I don't think we got them to be 2-headed, but we got them to respond to light. So we had better Planarias back in the 80s than I was able to order later. But anyway, they're interesting if you can, but I almost would say don't bother, that instead it's better to just look at it online, because they're really hard to get to do that. But anyway, they do respond, but they respond slowly, but because of their nervous system, but that they respond faster than Hydras do, because their nervous system is even more simple. Now, what Planarian have is they have a nervous system of nerves, a network. They have 2 little lines that go down each side with almost like a ladder. It looks like a ladder is what their nervous system looks like. And then they have something that's kind of like a brain up top, where it's more dense, and then they have their eye spots. Now, something that has a more advanced nervous system would be a spider. Jointed leg insects, arachnids, they can respond much faster. And you see spiders respond very quickly. If they feel a vibration on their web, off they go. And they can respond very quickly to that. And if you can look at diagrams, their nervous system is more complex. They've got more parts to it. Now, let's talk about us. That's what we really care about, right? So with us, our human nervous system is made out of nerve cells. These nerve cells make up your nerves, and they also are what make up your brain and your spinal cord. So it's all made out of nerve tissue. Nerves, you can see a good little diagram of one in your book on page 312, but it is, nerve cells are called neurons. They have a covering or a sheath on them that's kind of fatty. They have little hairy parts on one side that are called dendrites, where they get the input, and then they have like a regular kind of cell with a nucleus, and then they have a long tail coming out called the axon, and that's where the outgoing messages go. Then they meet up with another nerve cell to pass on that information, but they don't actually touch. There's a little gap in between where a chemical builds up and then it fires. The gap is called a synapse, and the firing of the nerves go across the synapse, and the information is carried like electricity through wires. Nerve impulses are carried through nerves. So, anything else we want to say about that? We're going to talk about that there are things that, messages that go all the way to your brain and ones that actually don't. And we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, it's like charges, the synapse, the chemical. Okay, your spinal cord are just bundles of these nerves, and your spinal cord, then the nerves branch out throughout your body. Let's see, your skull protects your brain, your vertebrae, your backbone is what protects your spinal cord. Very important. Don't want anything to happen to those. You'll end up not being able to move, paralysis and stuff. Now, your brain has different parts to it, and when you take anatomy later, you'll learn these in more detail, but we're going to talk about 3 parts of your brain. The front part is the cerebrum, and it controls your thoughts, your emotions, your voluntary movements. It is what you think of, where you think, your memory, messages about pain or touch, your personality. All your voluntary things are pretty much controlled in the front part of your brain. The next part of your brain is the middle part of your brain, and it controls a lot of involuntary things, things that are like balance, things you don't really think about, things that make you have more grace, and that's the cerebrum. The back part of your brain is the medulla, and it controls a lot of your involuntary things like your heart beating, breathing. So that's why it's so important to protect. And that's a long time ago around here, there was a boy who was being bullied, and he got off the bus, and the bully got off the bus too, and he punched him in the back of the head. The kid didn't even know that the guy was back there and was going to punch him. He just punched him in the back of the head, killed him. Of course, ruined the guy who died's life. It was over, and his family, but ruined the bully's life too. So never punch anybody in the back of the head. Protect the back of your head. Be aware of your surroundings. It's just so sad. And what my boys did is, I've sent all my children off to learn karate. They're all black belts now in Kenpo karate. I wanted my children to be able to protect themselves from bullies. I wanted them to be able to block and not have somebody trying to punch them and end their life like what happened not too long ago. It's been, I'd say, 15 years, but for someone of my age, that wasn't so long ago. If you're watching this as a 15-year-old, you're like, that's forever ago, but it wasn't that long ago. I know those families don't think so either, but it's so sad. So the back of your brain is just very, very important. You want to protect your medulla. All right. Now, reflexes. This is what I was telling you about before, which is so interesting. Most of what goes on with your nervous system, you have an impulse, like I'm feeling of this hand with that hand. Those pulses go up my arm, up my spinal cord to my brain, and my brain's like, this hand feels like it needs a little lotion. It feels rough. It makes a decision on that, and I might go get the lotion and put on my hands. But there are other things that are called reflexes, and your spinal cord actually does the thinking. How weird is that? But it's what happens. Like, say you step on a tack. That was you stepping on a tack. Smack. And you will jerk and move. Those impulses go to your spinal cord. It does not take the time to go all the way to your brain. And your spinal cord weirdly can think, will tell your foot, move, get off the tack faster than going to your brain. Now then, part of that impulse will go on to your brain more slowly and go, ow, that hurts. But that decision to move your foot will happen before it ever gets to your brain. Isn't that cool? I think it is. So that's reflexes. Was there something there are 4 things that are true about reflexes, your book says. First, they're involuntary. We talked about that. Second, they happen very quickly. Third, they may not involve the brain. Your spinal cord could just do the thinking. And fourth, most are helpful. Things like blinking and coughing, those are all reflexes. Now, there's a lab in your book that I want you to do for reaction time, and what you're going to do is someone's going to drop a ruler and you're going to catch it, and you're going to see how many inches go before you can respond and catch it. We had a lot of fun with that lab last time. Now, what is the endocrine system? The endocrine system is your glands. It's your system of glands. And it's the chemical control of your body through a chemical called hormones. So hormones isn't just what controls puberty. It controls lots of things in your body are controlled by hormones. So some of the parts of the endocrine system are the pituitary gland, the thyroid, the parathyroid, the adrenal gland, the pancreas that we've already talked about, ovaries in women and testes in men have these glands. So what does the pituitary gland do? It's sometimes called the master gland because it's so important. It controls many functions. One is it controls growth, sexual maturity. It also just controls many different bodily functions. So it's a very important one, and it's in your head. Your pituitary gland is within your head. You can look on a diagram and see where it is. The next one is your thyroid gland, and it's at the base of your neck right there, and it's really important too. Your thyroid gland controls how your body deals with food. And so if you have something wrong with your thyroid, it can cause you to be tired all the time and gain weight. Or it can cause you to be nervous all the time and to lose weight. And neither of those are healthy. You want a nice, healthy thyroid that can process your food, your oxygen correctly so that you maintain a healthy body weight. So one of my relatives right now was struggling with weight. She had had a baby and she was dieting, and normally after she has a baby she's able to get her body back real quick, and no matter what, it just wasn't happening. And she goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, we need to check your thyroid because that sounds like a thyroid problem. And I have another friend who has a thyroid problem where she has to take medicine the rest of her life, but without that medicine she's just awful. Not unpleasant, but she feels terrible. But as long as she's on the medicine, she's fine. So your thyroid is really important. You want it to be healthy. It can really affect your life a lot if it's not. Another one, you can read through all the ones. The parathyroid controls calcium in your body, regulates. The pancreas controls glucose, and I think we're going to talk about that, a little bit later on. The adrenal gland aids in adrenaline and aids in times of emergency. And then ovaries and testes regulate female and male characteristics and functions. So very important. The nervous system, things that can go wrong is when you have a stroke. Strokes can be caused by different things. One, it can be caused by like a blood clot or by narrowing of the arteries in your neck, things like that. But it's caused where part of your brain is not getting the oxygen and blood it needs, and then it can cause paralysis, loss of memory, loss of functions. So strokes are just terrible, just absolutely terrible. Another thing that you can have problems with is diabetes, and it can be your pancreas is part of your endocrine system, and it helps your body in producing insulin, and insulin is what controls sugar getting from your bloodstream to your body where it's needed, and it controls that flow. So if the sugar can't get out of your blood, then you'll start losing weight, being thirsty all the time, and you can have diabetes, and it can end in blindness. We have a very good friend, a pastor, who he went for an eye test and was going blind, had no idea he had diabetes, because sometimes people who have diabetes are overweight and they'll start losing. He wasn't overweight. He was young. He was like 40. That's young. And then suddenly he was going blind in one eye, and it was that he had diabetes, and he was able to get under control, and he has to take insulin, but he was able to get under control. And there's different kinds of diabetes. There's diabetes that children get, and then there's other kinds of diabetes that you can kind of cause by poor nutrition choices. So you don't want either one, but people have really no control. The kids who have childhood diabetes, it's not nutrition choices. It's just like how, you can be born with different things. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's body is perfect. Childhood diabetes is one of the problems. Now, there's a lab in your book about testing urine. You're not going to do that unless you know somebody with diabetes and you want to help test their blood or test their urine or something. You can do that, but that's not something we're going to do, because that is one of those things that the lab equipment is not readily available. But we will do the reaction. I'm doing it for you. The reactions lab one. That one's very fun, so you can do that one. All right. Science is great. Math is great. Come back, and we'll learn more of it. See you soon.